right, so good afternoon to everyone. And now we are live on Usapang Musiko, no, season 2. This is our 20th episode. And the topic for today's episode was inspired by not really a question, but a statement someone made that they wanted to teach children. And as I've said nga, in that conversation, is that teaching children is a hard thing to do because what you teach children they keep for the longest times in their lives, no? Because as we all know, children absorbs everything that you give to them. They are a sponge. And I think this is a good topic to talk about. When should you be teaching, or when should be the time that you can consider yourself teaching music? No, because I don't know, it's not really something that we can gatekeep, no? Because uh looking at it, music, there is a huge gray area in music where sometimes we can't really say and control what we can or cannot do as musicians, no? For example, I can't tell someone else that he or she can't play a certain piece because doesn't meet the levels yet, no? I can't say that just because there's no really right or wrong things, because music in general is an art form, and an art form is an expression of one's feelings, ideas, and emotions. So with that definition of music, you can't really tell what music is for you is the same for other people. So that's where the gray area comes in. And yeah, as music should be acceptable as a form of expression for everyone, no? But there is also an area where expertise and knowledge comes into play. Like, because to serve the purpose of music, to enlighten and educate the people, and you need expertise to be able to teach music. Because we've talked about music education numerous times here on my show, my podcast, this platform, on YouTube, on all my videos. We've been talking about those things, no? And we will continue to talk about those things because it's really an important part of our society and our culture to be able to understand that music is like the sciences, is like the maths, the languages. It's still the same thing, just in another form of it, no? That music, art in general, is still part of culture, part of everything that we are doing in our daily lives, no? We just don't see how important it is because we try to look the other way. We always try to be more critical, more analytical, but we forget that we need those skills as well in order to learn music. And I guess it's still uh, rampant in society that music is not given a lot of value, especially teaching it. No, so we will talk about when can you consider yourself to be able to teach others. No, because um, a lot of people can actually teach. It's just that, are you credible enough to share your talents, especially for teaching children? No? This is a very very um tricky situation, you know? Because for me, based on my experience, I had teachers before in violin that aren't really violinists. Like, they were uh, given the instrument and they tried it out and then they can play. And then yun na. They are already teaching me. And what did I get? Based on my experience, on my own journey, I went back to zero after all learning these things. Why? Because they weren't really knowledgeable in the field that they are teaching me in. And that is violin playing. You may be a musician, but if you're not really a violinist, can you really teach me? It's a different uh instrument, requires different set of skills, different knowledge. base and different principles, and that's important to note. Okay, now, so do you want to teach? Let's talk about that. Is it enough that you know how to play in order for you to teach? The answer is yes and a no. Yes, in a sense that, of course, you can teach what you know. If you don't know something about a certain topic, you can't really teach it, right? But it's more than just the application. Because if we want to learn something or we want to do something, we learn the application. But is learning the application enough for you to be able to teach someone right? No. So if you want to go deeper into that topic of teaching, you have to know the ins and outs, the principles, the concepts, the knowledge behind why does your bow need to move in this direction? Why does your hand need to be in this direction? No? Those things matter. Why? Because those are the things that make your instrument work. And if you really want to teach those things, you have to be experienced in how the instrument works and how you can transfer those knowledge, ideas, and concepts to your students. No? Talking from experience, I started teaching, like teaching professionally, like being paid to teach when I was 14, I think. That was like 11 years ago. And yeah, at that age, you might think, oh, you're too young to teach. But when I was at that age, my experience and knowledge in playing the instrument was higher than some people older than me. Why? Because I was really into learning the instrument, learning the ins and outs. I'm a very, very curious person. So I was already at a certain level wherein I understand the different concepts behind what I'm doing. Not just the surface level of, okay, I need to put my bow here and then just do this and then do that. No, I had a deeper understanding. So, age will not really tell you a lot about when you should be teaching. It's more of your experience, your knowledge and understanding. Now, if you've been taught or if you're self-taught and you want to teach, I think that's a bad idea. Why? Because you're not really sure of the knowledge that you have, no? If you only learned it from YouTube or you've learned it from someone who wasn't really trained well, I think you shouldn't be teaching, no? So if you really want to teach, try to learn how to work with your instrument first. Because playing is different from teaching, no? We've talked about this in a previous podcast as well about the difference between performance and pedagogy. But you can also play but not be professional, right? You can play but you won't get paid for it, right? That's the thing. It can be a hobby but not a job. It's the same thing with teaching, is that if you can teach but you are you really that knowledgeable for you to be able to teach? That's the thing, no? Because I don't want to name names, but yeah, I had students that came from teachers who they thought were already good just because they studied in this school, they studied in that school, but they didn't really study. For example, it's just their minor and they didn't really focus on it. And that's a lot of problems, especially for violin. No, for me as a teacher, I've encountered a lot of students being taught by other people. I'm not saying that I'm the best teacher, but I know what I'm teaching. And if I see something wrong from my students, I would tell their parents or them directly, okay, this is wrong, right? And you have to understand the history of why those things are wrong in the first place. So if I see that, oh, their past teacher were teaching them this, they're teaching them that way. I'm not saying that I'm the only one that's correct, but there are certain techniques, concepts that are 100% factual, or you can really say that it's subjective, no? There are things, I know the art form is subjective, but there are things that you have to consider that aren't really subjective, like gravity, like inertia, like friction. These phenomena happen, and you can't really find other ways around them, no? So you have to work with them. And that's the problem. Some teachers don't even understand how the instrument works, and they just teach their students, no? So the credibility of a teacher is very, very important, no? And you don't really want to teach things that are wrong 100%, no? Who wants to ever learn something that is wrong? And that's where resentment comes from other students. I had friends and colleagues that say that, my first teacher wasn't good because he didn't teach me these things, and my current teacher is teaching me right now. But I say, maybe they just didn't know. And it's something that we can't really say na everyone should know it. But as a teacher, no, if you really want to teach, you would want to grow as your students are growing as well. So you would want to learn more than what you have now so that you can transfer it to them. And the main goal of a teacher is to guide the students. Now, if you have no guidance of your own as well, how can you share that knowledge? Where did you pick that up? Where did you get those information from? Over the internet? Eddie, I'll just go search it by myself. Diba? The thing is, if you have been mentored, you can mentor. Maybe that's how we should put it, no? If you when should you teach if you've been mentored and you have absorbed enough knowledge and skills as well. So you can transform that knowledge into the skills that you need so that your students, on the other hand, will be able to cope up with what you are teaching them. And this is very, very important. A lot of people say na, oh, she can play, so he can teach me. No? But that is the problem. Not everyone who can play can teach. Even the best musicians, some of the best musicians, aren't really good teachers. No, we have a lot of in record of those things happening. No, the concert artists who aren't really good teachers, that aren't really that much invested in teaching, because again, it's another thing to tame. It's another skill to learn, to transfer what you know to other people. And that is basically what teaching is, what pedagogy is. Now, if you just want to teach, but you don't give the effort of learning the things that you need to learn in order for you to become an effective teacher, then that's where the problem arises. So, when will you be ready to be teaching? You have to invest in yourself so that you can share. Because, again, you can't give what you don't have. If you don't have the knowledge and expertise in a certain topic, how can you be knowledgeable in it and share it to other people? Lagi na lang ba, should we always say that, okay, I learned this on YouTube? When people ask you, how did you learn how to play? I search it on the internet. Will you be credible enough? Because what we always talk about this, diba? What is lacking when you just learn things online? Feedback. Feedback lacks. And that's the thing that's differentiating a proper mentor student relationship to watching videos online. No. As I've always said in my violin tips and tricks videos, that those videos are only there to supplement you. And the only way to get better quicker is to get a mentor. Investing in yourself. no? By getting a credible teacher, someone who knows what they're talking about, someone who understands more than just the strokes, more than just the fingerings, more than just the movements, understanding what goes in deeper, the reasons why you're moving, the reasons why your strokes are like that. Those are the things that you have to understand as a teacher. Because, of course, if you're teaching children, that's another challenge. Why? Because you have to get all these complex ideas and transform them to ideas that the children will need to understand. And that's a hard thing to do, especially with a huge age gap of the child, no? Because children nowadays are different from your childhood. So you have to be standing in their shoes as well. So there are certain concepts that you might know that they don't know, especially with the brink of technology. No, not a lot of children are playing outside. Not a lot of them has the same childhood as you did, especially if you're older. No, the generation gap that you have to conquer first, and then transfer those ideas into their heads as well. And that's the challenge. So it's really really hard to teach. It's just not okay, I want to teach. You have to work for it. You have to understand how their mind works, and you play around with concepts, ideas that they understand so that they can grasp it better. Especially online, no? As I've been teaching students, no, for quite a while, as I've said, at least 11 years, from the youngest of the young to the oldest of the old. So, with my experience, especially in online teaching, you really have to be communicating well, especially verbally, because you're losing a lot of touch, which is very very important. Touch and feel, no, because it's not just what we see and what we hear; it's what we feel and what we perceive. That's important as well. Now, if we lost those two things, and to make up with that, you have to be more specific in your instructions because there's a barrier, which is distance, that you can't really do anything about as of the moment. And I think it will remain like this for maybe a few more years. I'm not really sure. We're not really sure, even with the vaccine coming up. So, if you really want to teach, and the thing is, you shouldn't teach for the money, because a lot of people, I had experiences with this before. Like, they don't really teach, just need it for the money. You have to have the passion to teach. And if you can't have that passion, or even the patience to actually endure long hours of training students, no, because it's not always what you say is what you get, because there is this unraveling of information that's happening for them, that you have to connect with them more, not just because okay, you already know this. You get frustrated because your student doesn't know it as well as you do, and that's your job, to connect your mind with them. That's your job as a teacher. And as you connect it with them, you pass on the knowledge for them to develop the skills. And that's the thing. You can't really develop the skills without the knowledge. So knowledge comes first, but skill is trained after. So you need to transfer what your mind knows so that they can practice their minds to control their body. So, as my favorite professor always says, use your coconut. Diba? Everything happens from your mind first. And you are the one controlling it. And if you really want to teach, you can, but you have to uh, remember that teaching requires a lot from the teacher, no? Even though in the long run, the teacher's inputs are only 10% of what the students are getting out. Why? Because 90% comes from the work that the students are doing. But that 10% should be of good quality. The guidance that you give to your students should always be of a higher quality so that the 90% of their work will be fruitful and will be easier for them to reach a certain level. And with that, I will end this podcast. Thank you for joining me. Again, this is Usapang Musiko Season 2. You can catch this on Anchor and all major podcast platforms. Check out the links in the description box. We have a new partner, Default Cafe Pub. So if you want to buy drinks from them, check out the code down below. Also, check out all my socials: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We post daily content on TikTok and all those major platforms as well. And also, check out my songs on Spotify. And I'll see you. By the way, subscribe to my YouTube channel as well. So we have a lot of content, no? You can see Usapang Musiko and also violin tips and tricks, covers, everything else under the sun. And I'll leave you with that. This is Ryan Monakil, and I'll see you on the next one.